This person is asking, saying that they used to be happy and excited in life. I suddenly lost my excitement about everything. I lost the joy inside me without understanding why. And despite extensive personal development and trying various permission slips, they still feel joyless. I've lost the hope that this will change. I can't pinpoint any negative beliefs. I feel confident, worthy, and deserving of joy. I usually do what I feel like doing in the moment, but it doesn't feel like true excitement. What can I do to reconnect with authentic joy and excitement?
Well, you may not have negative beliefs to let go of, but you may have erroneous definitions to let go of, because it sounds like you have a certain expectation of how you're supposed to feel doing certain things that you choose to do. There is nothing that says that you have to be jumping up and down all the time with absolute giddiness to experience the idea of acting on your passion. Do not misunderstand the definition of those words. A state of absolute calm and absolute peace can also be representative of the idea of acting on your passion. So the first thing you might want to do is let go of the way you think, let go of the way you expect you're supposed to feel by choosing to do the things that you do choose to do, and just see if you're entering a new state, a new level of appreciation and gratitude and peace and calm and tranquility and contentment, which in and of themselves can be variations of the feeling that you could associate with acting on your passion. It doesn't mean you have to be walking down the street and laughing your head off or being on fire all the time.
Thank you. Okay, this one is, how do you handle waiting for an uncontrollable outcome, especially when others pressure you for answers or plans depend on it? How can you influence such a decision indirectly and stay positive when action isn't possible?
Well, first of all, we will have to assume that by your term uncontrollable outcome, that you may be talking about the idea of dropping insistence. That isn't clear in your question. Nevertheless, if you have developed a plan for something to theoretically occur, remember that all plans need to be adaptable. In other words, a plan should contain within it the ability to change the plan where necessary, to go with the flow, to go with the currents, to go with what happens, with what changes. So there needs to be some flexibility in there. And then you may find there are things you can act on if you're not too rigid about exactly the way you think the plan should proceed. So you might need a little bit more flexibility in what you call a plan that can give you more options of what outcomes could happen that could still serve the same purpose, that could still feel like you have arrived at the conclusion that is necessary for everyone concerned.
So maybe another example of that would be a situation where someone's child was taken hostage and they're just waiting and waiting for word or that the person would be released. So they would feel very much like it was an uncontrollable situation and they have tremendous emotional
If that's what
investment.
this person meant by uncontrollable,
I'm using that as an example.
you're using it as a different example.
Yes, it can be. Yes.
All right. So what are you asking?
How do people under those kinds of stressful situations where the outcome is of such great import and at the same time they don't have control, what is the state of being to choose to ride that kind of a uncontrollable outcome type thing?
Well, the first step would be to understand that even though it may seem you have no control over the situation, you always have control over your state of being, no matter what's going on. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens. That's the main principle. So, staying in a state of being, I'm not saying you have to be happy that someone has been abducted, But staying in a stable state, a potentially positive state, or at the very least a neutral state, can allow you to be able to observe synchronicities that will come to you that can lead to solutions that would be beneficial for all. So you have to learn the lessons involved. You have to understand that it may be something that's part of your life path to bring you a lesson you need to learn how to deal with these things in a way that can be more constructive than what you're afraid of. So again, of course, it will always depend upon the specific situation and the specific circumstances and conditions of that situation. Even though you have posed a general question, you have to look at the specifics of what's going on, who's involved, what it is they hope to gain, and all of those things in order to allow synchronicity to direct your attention to specifically what can be done and specifically what actions can be taken. But the only way you're going to receive that information is by, at the very least, remaining in a neutral state, if not fully a positive state, knowing that you will be given the information you need to move forward in a constructive and positive way to learn the lessons that need to be learned and allow for a more positive and constructive outcome for all concerned.
And also the idea of being under such a stressful situation and then perhaps the person falls out of the neutral state and goes into a negative state. It seems like it's a lot about, is it controlling your thoughts, or what thoughts will you allow, or how it can people navigate
All right.
things where
All right. Well, watch your language and how you define that, because people do not fall out of states. They choose to be in one state or another, even if that choice is unconscious. So again, they have to get in touch with their belief systems as to why they would choose to go into a state that they don't prefer about it. The idea is, again, if you understand how things work, you will know that if you truly desire some kind of a positive outcome, then staying in the neutral or positive state is going to give you the best opportunity to do that. Choosing to go into a fear-based state will not. Therefore, why would you choose it if the outcome is so dire? If the need for the outcome being positive is so important, why would you choose to go into a state that reduces the probability of having a positive outcome? All that takes is an understanding of how energy works and staying in the energy state that increases the probability of a positive outcome.
so it has to do with your conviction of how things work.
It
And you
has to do with an understanding, if you want to call it conviction, fine, but a true understanding and a clear understanding of how you create your reality, what your life path choices are all about in terms of how it helps you learn and grow. You have to understand how it works. And when you understand how it works, no other choice but to stay in a neutral or positive state will make sense.
right. So this person is asking, how do we tell the difference when we should help someone versus leaving them to be on their own journey?
If they are in your life and appear to need assistance, then you have attracted them through your own synchronicity to at least offer them the possibility of receiving assistance from you. You can always, again, suggest to them ways in which they may improve their situation. But after you have delivered that information, unless they give you any kind of signal that they want more assistance with that and more clarity or understanding of how to apply that in their lives, if they don't do that, then you have been given a signal that you have given them all the information they're willing to take, and you can move on. So the fact that they're in your life can be a signal that at least they may be willing to have you give them the option. And whether they use it today or tomorrow or a year or 10 years from now is not the point. The point is, if they're in your life and they appear to need help, then synchronicity has told you that there may be something you can do to at least give them information that they will be able to use at some point in their life. So at least make the attempt up to the point where it seems that they no longer wish your assistance. They'll let you know, either through their body language or their language. They'll let you know that's enough. They'll go away. They'll tell you to go away. They'll tell you to stop trying to help them. Something will let you know that you have given them everything they can handle, everything they can absorb. But at the very least, attempt to offer them something you believe in your heart of hearts may actually benefit them. That's the best you can do anyway.
Okay, and this individual is saying that they've lived a very difficult and unsafe life for so long that even though they understand your teachings, they struggle to implement them. How can they truly believe that they are safe and that everything will be okay? They can't seem to
By
let go.
understanding the concepts. They don't understand them. They may have a mental comprehension of the concepts that we're delivering, but clearly they don't understand them in the degree that they need to again realize how things actually work, because they are still choosing to struggle, still choosing to experience difficulty. So it must benefit them in their mind, in their belief system, somehow to continue to do so. Maybe they don't believe they can learn the lessons they need to learn any other way. They have to examine their belief systems and find out what benefit they're getting about continuing to choose to struggle through their lessons. They can always learn to process those challenges in ways that they can still learn the lessons in more positive, creative, and constructive ways. So they don't really understand the concepts, at least not clearly enough that they're willing to choose other ways and use their creative imagination to find the path that works for them, that is not so difficult and not so stressful. They must be getting something out of what they're experiencing as difficulty and stress.
Yes, I mean, you've talked about negative beliefs, and it sounds like some of the questions that we're getting are about people feeling like they can't control the negative beliefs that they're hearing in their head and they're buying into them. Is there anything you could suggest regarding that?
Yes, but you see, that's one of the beliefs itself. I can't control this. I can't help but buy into it. That's a negative belief. So they have to pay attention to the fact that that dialogue in their head is coming from the negative belief as well. It's one of the quote unquote tricks that negative beliefs have, is to convince you that there's nothing you can do, that it's an automatic function you just can't help. Therefore, they have to learn to identify even that language, even the voices in their head about how they can't do anything about it, as something coming from the negative belief. Again, it takes an understanding in detail, precisely, as to how negative beliefs work.
And
We
perhaps the
understand
idea.
that it can take some time to learn these things, but practice, practice, practice. But you have to understand the principle clearly enough to use it to your advantage. And one of the principles that's important to understand is when you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, that feeling is the result of a negative belief telling you that there's nothing you can do about it and you buying into it unconsciously.
So, in a sense, it's like getting to the point where you don't empower negative beliefs and believe that they're stronger than your positive beliefs. Or,
Because that's another belief, isn't it?
yes.
There you go.
Okay, the next question is I'm eager to know who is vocally channeling through me. This individual is saying that, and that they sense the presence of this energy around them all the time. They also wonder if the fatigue they're experiencing is a result of the energy's presence.
If you're not used to higher frequency energies, yes, you can be tired by processing it. We would suggest that for right now, you allow yourself, if you're going to do vocal channeling or something of that nature, automatic writing or what have you, that you simply continue to practice without wondering who it is right now, as long as the information coming through you is positive and constructive, self-empowering for others and not controlling. Don't worry about the source right now. Allow yourself to know that your higher mind is involved, spirit guides are involved, your soul family is involved, your angelic beings are involved, your team is involved Your non-physical team is involved in some way, shape, or form. ETs may be involved, extra dimensionals may be involved, elementals may be involved eventually as well. But the idea is to practice getting used to clearing out any negative fear-based beliefs, any erroneous definitions that may be inhibiting your ability to process higher frequency energy and information, and just let it flow through you and don't worry about what's coming out right now or who it is. Those are details that will reveal themselves in time. Again, as long as you feel that the information in some way, shape, or form is beneficial, not controlling, but self-empowering to yourself and others, and giving you an opportunity to grow and learn lessons that are important for you in your life, then just keep practicing.
And our next question is, what does excitement feel like? I've been able to differentiate between anxiety and my neutral excitement through my intentions at the time, but it seems like an unnecessarily long process of elimination. Is this high vibe state of following my excitement supposed to feel neutral, or should it feel, as commonly put, exciting?
It can feel either way. As we have said, even a neutral state is a positive state because it allows you the freedom to make a choice. The idea is, again, to know that acting on your passion doesn't mean you have to be jumping up and down. It can be a state of very calm acceptance and gratitude and appreciation. It can be a very meditative state. It can be a state of contentment, contemplation, many different kinds of experiences. But you just have to know that what you're choosing is truly in alignment with what you prefer, that it represents who you really are. That's really the thing to focus on. Then whatever feeling comes with that will contain whatever energies it needs to contain to bring you awareness of the lessons you need to learn and bring you clarity about what it is you're actually choosing and whether it is in alignment with who you prefer to be.
Thank you. This one is, could you please elaborate about how this reality actually functions? I've heard you say that this reality is not real. Each of us is sitting in a room by ourselves talking to our own higher selves. If every person we interact with on this planet is our own version of them, do we ever actually interact with any real souls, or is everything just a reflection that each of us manifests?
Everything in physical reality is a reflection of what you're manifesting, but you are interacting with real souls. It's just that in physical reality, you are interacting with your version of them, your creation of them, in the same way that when you talk to someone over your computer or your telephone, you are interacting with an electronic representation of them. So you're still interacting with a real being, but when you see somebody on your computer screen, you're not interacting with the actual being in that moment. You're interacting with an electronic presentation, electronic representation of them. So it's sort of like that. The idea that physical reality isn't real doesn't mean the experience isn't real, doesn't mean the connection isn't real. It's simply the methodology that we're describing about how you make that interface. We're simply saying the interface, in a sense, is one step removed, just because that's the nature of how physical reality is created. It's like you're creating a screen and receiving your version through your belief system filters of what that person represents to you, what that being represents to you, and they're doing the same with you. But you're still interacting with real beings on a higher level. It's just that you're deciding that you're going to interact with each other through this filter for the purpose of getting in touch with your belief systems and what you need to experience on your life path. That's just the way it works in physical reality because you're creating the simulation. So that's what you're doing, is you're using the simulation to get a reflection of what it is you're putting out so you can use it as a guideline to figure out what you need to focus on. But you're interacting with real souls, of course.
So, why do people manifest things like abandonment, or being in love with someone that's not in love with them, or
A
all kinds of
million
things.
different reasons. Again, case by case. Everyone has a different life path and everyone is learning different lessons. You have to take it on an individual basis. I can't give you a general answer that addresses every single case that you're bringing up.
So, in the sense of having the attitude to have that you're manifesting things where people aren't cooperating the way you want, or whatever the behavior is from people you care about that is not supportive of what you prefer, what is the best way to look at that in terms of how physical reality works?
Well, first and foremost, always check in with yourself to make sure that you don't have expectations based on fear-based or negative beliefs that are out of alignment with the lessons you really need to learn in a situation like that. Secondly, you can observe that maybe the other people involved are also learning their lessons and need to look at certain things for themselves as well, and that you're working this out with each other by processing and communication and whatever processes you need to go through to gain clarity about what the interaction is all about and why you are experiencing it in the way that you're experiencing it. But always, first and foremost, check in with yourself to make sure that you're not insisting and that your expectations are realistic and truly representative of what's going on, that are the things you need to learn for your life path. Then you can investigate, perhaps, if the other people are willing, what's going on in their life path. But always start with yourself.
So, the attitude to take whenever you're encountering beings in your life that are not in the relationship the way you prefer is to
Always, as
just
we have said, in the simplest possible way, you always check in with yourself first and say, is there something in this situation that helps me understand more about what I'm putting out? If you truly have an honest self-assessment that it has nothing to do specifically with lessons that you need to learn about your own belief systems, then you might next, as a next step, say, all right, well, maybe I'm here to reflect to them something that they need to understand to help them with their life path and their life lessons and their belief systems. But usually in your society at this point in your evolution, it's going to be something that works in all directions for all people concerned. There is always something each person can get out of it to learn about what they need to learn to become more of who they truly are. That's why relationships are so important to understand as reflective to each other to help each other become more of who you actually are. It's very rarely only in one direction. There's always something every party in a relationship can learn for their own life path.
okay, maybe this is the same idea, but this person is asking, are the challenges, trauma, and relationship issues we experience solely our own creation, or do others, circumstances, situations play a role? Is anyone truly at fault, or is there a better way to view the interconnectedness of it all?
We would not use the term at fault. We would use the term life path choices to learn lessons to help your soul grow. So it depends upon the facility that you have to divine what those lessons are, absorb them, and learn them, that gives you greater and greater clarity and more expansion in your consciousness by understanding that whatever scenario is happening, there is something you can get out of it that has to do with your life path, and that your life path is always intertwined with other life paths as well, in the way that we've already described reflectively. No one is isolated. All life paths are interconnected. And the idea is to get out of it what you need to learn for yourself and to help the others also get out of it what they need to learn for themselves. But always start with yourself and what you need to learn.